China's modern infrastructure is currently operating at a scale that often exceeds the logistical reach of other nations. From the world's longest bridges to high-altitude railways, the sheer volume of their output has become a global anomaly. Inside high-tech cleanrooms, their engineers are designing the architecture for the world's most complex microchips and high-end industrial systems. It is a level of technical accuracy that has shifted the center of global manufacturing. Commentator Ho Pin argues that this rapid rise is not a sudden economic anomaly. He views it as the expression of an inherited gene, a specific underlying logic of labor and survival. You see the byproduct of this logic in the grueling hours of modern tech firms. The folding cot leaning against an office wall at midnight represents a specific type of no-retreat focus, where the work is treated as the only path forward. This extreme work ethic was not invented in a boardroom. It was codified 150 years ago in the freezing camps of the American West. The relentless focus required to survive the 19th century railroad projects established the baseline for a culture where labor is viewed as a primary tool for refusing to die. Building the transcontinental railroad through the Sierra Nevada meant carving a path through solid granite. For the Chinese workers brought in to do the job, the terrain was only the first layer of the obstacle. This chart shows the calculated exploitation used to keep costs low. While white workers were paid $35 a month, Chinese laborers received only $28. Furthermore, they were forced to purchase their own food and supplies, shrinking their take-home pay even further. To clear the route, men were lowered down sheer cliffs in woven baskets. They hand-stuffed black powder into rock crevices, lit the fuses, and relied on their co-workers to pull the ropes fast enough to escape the blast. The railroad company officially reported only 2 deaths from these operations. However, historical estimates place the number of workers buried beneath the rocks at over 1,200. When exploitation is given a fixed price, physical pain becomes a standard condition of employment. Under these terms, the laborers were forced to treat their own bodies strictly as tools for survival. On April 28, 1869, this workforce demonstrated the results of that extreme focus. They laid 10 miles of iron track in a single day, a record of manual labor that has never been broken. 2 years earlier, 5,000 workers had attempted to change their conditions through a strike. They requested a $12 monthly raise and slightly shorter shifts in the dangerous tunnel sections. The company's response was absolute. They cut off the supply trains, starving the workers in the remote mountain passes. After 8 days without food, the workers silently returned to their tools. There were no negotiations. Ho Pin argues that this return to work was not a sign of weakness. It was the ultimate expression of a labor spirit, where the only way to avoid death is to keep working, regardless of the hunger or the pain. At the 1869 Golden Spike Ceremony, the completion of the railroad was celebrated as a triumph of modern civilization, but the famous photograph reveals a glaring absence. Despite their record-breaking work, there is not a single Chinese face in the crowd. The laborers had been ordered to step out of the frame so that others could celebrate the victory of the project. This creates a fundamental paradox. The celebratory face of progress is often an erasure, while the actual physical foundation is where the truth of the labor remains. These are the men who built that foundation. They weren't working toward a grand national vision. They were driven by basic needs: a meal, a wage to send home, and the simple desire to survive another day on the cliff. The desperate, back-to-the-wall focus required of these men didn't disappear when the tracks were finished. It compounded over a century and a half into a cultural baseline, a logic where extreme precision and tireless work are the tools for advancement. Today, that same inherited drive is what powers China's rise to industrial supremacy.